Welcome back, everybody, to the Rise and Bind podcast. I am your host, Chris Langille from Advisor Evolved. Pumped to be joined again from a good friend and colleague, SEO professional, PPC professional, digital marketing whiz, Mr. Curtis Hays from Curtis Hays Consulting. What's up, my brother?
Great to be back, Chris. How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's been a little bit since we did an episode. You know, I always try to wrangle you in for these digital marketing and SEO episodes because we share the same vision on a lot of this stuff and sort of have done our research. And I like to think that we're not like most marketers. You know, we like to give people sort of a holistic view of their situation and really a no nonsense approach, whereas a lot of marketers will kind of oversell things. And we're kind of talking a little bit about that today because we're talking about a hot topic today, which is AI and its impact on search and all of the sort of the hot button topics that are flying around. And just like anything else, right? That's sort of newer. There's a lot of misconceptions, and sort of want to clear the air on a few things. And wanted you to join me because this is stuff that comes up on your desk all the time too from your clients. And we've been having more and more people reach out to us with questions like, how can we rank better in ChatGPT? You know, this one marketer said that he could rank us in ChatGPT, and now there's Google Gemini and Perplexity and like all of these different LLMs. So I wanted to just sort of dive right in and I guess start with the ChatGPT angle because obviously they're they started this party, right? They're
Right.
the most popular LLM, although everybody, a lot of other ones have caught up. But, I've gotten that question a lot, how can we show up in ChatGPT? And so I sort of wanted to lay down some facts. And what would you say, first of all, because I know what I would say, and we'll get to that. But what would you say if somebody asked you that question?
Well, ChatGPT doesn't rank. I mean, that's what I would first say. So as an LLM, that means language learning model. Its job is to learn. Its job is not to index. Its job is to learn. So we have to keep that in mind first. As it's learning, it's certainly using tools like Google or Bing and these search engines, which we got to remember, while AI is good, like Google's been in this game for 20 plus years. And so it's been building its index, its repository of content. And that isn't just a semantic index. It has our behaviors within that search engine of what's good content, what's not. You have like RankBrain, which came out. You have BERT, which is a whole nother sort of semantic thing that it's been doing its own learning and built its algorithms, which are totally proprietary for years. And so it has a specific job, and it's to essentially go and fetch you content when you are searching for content. Now, a language learning model, yes, it goes and fetches you content, but it's fetching content from its own library of knowledge. Its job is to go out and learn and then summarize those learnings to a person who's asking it questions. You can sort of have a conversation with it. It gets better as you sort of train it, as you have conversations with it. Say I want to learn about the Civil War, right? It's like you can have a conversation with it to get to what you're really trying to learn about. Maybe it's Gettysburg, maybe it's Abraham Lincoln, right? And the more that you give it context, the more it will go out and find content. But that content is kind of packed away in its brain in these sort of chunks. So you're going to have this larger, broader chunk of Civil War that now breaks down into these other chunks, and it understands all this information, but it's learned that information through sources. Those sources being, internet, archives, and those types of things.
Yep.
But it doesn't, when it returned the result, give you a listing of the top results. It's giving you a summary of what it understands about that specific topic.
Yep. It's funny too, because if you actually go to ChatGPT and you ask it, does ChatGPT crawl the web? It literally says ChatGPT does not crawl the open web. It's trained on a mixture of licensed data, publicly available data, and data created by human trainers. The training data includes a broad swath of the internet, such as books, websites, and articles, but it does not include real-time access to the web. So to your point, it's a summary engine. It's a learning summary engine more than it is a search engine. It does not have its own ranking algorithm. At least as we sit here today, it doesn't have its own ranking algorithm. So when somebody comes to you and says, we can get you to rank in ChatGPT,
it's a false statement on
correct.
itself. If you take the statement for what it is, it's a false statement because there is no ranking inside of any sort of ChatGPT or anything like that. Yep.
Yeah. It's marketers doing what marketers do, which is, ruining everything and, overselling everything. But no, I mean, it's important to understand that though, because there are literally people out there that are selling courses and they're selling people on, monthly retainers on ranking them in ChatGPT. And obviously ChatGPT obviously it's a Microsoft product, so it has a very close relationship with Bing. So a lot of the content, a lot of the data that it's summarizing is coming from Bing. So I would tell anybody that asks that question, a more direct answer would be, if you want to appear, you want to have more presence in ChatGPT results and summaries, you need to have a good presence in Bing. So you should have a Bing business listing, Bing Places, which is like the equivalent to Google Business Profile. Make sure that if you're listening to this podcast, that you have a Bing Places profile set up. I've actually tested this because obviously I work with a lot of insurance agencies and some other niches. But if you were to go right now and type in, like, find me the best local insurance agency, it does show you local results in a similar way, not exactly to how Google does, but it does pull data from Bing Places. I can tell just by looking at the different citations and how the businesses are being listed. It's not just a website link. It's like open graph data and what looks to be like a knowledge panel, almost like from a Google result. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, and you're bringing up a good point there. And if we take a look at what the LLMs are doing, they are going to want to source material from multiple places. So let's clarify that point, which is that while it doesn't rank content, it will source content. So if you do see links inside of your LLM, inside of your chat, those links are their source materials, and those could be pulled from search engines, certainly. And the likelihood of you getting sourced is likely based off of your ranking. If you're ranking well, you might get sourced. So that's certainly a factor. But the LLMs aren't trained to go to one source, is what you're saying. They're trained to look at multiple sources. And so if you were to say, ask a question about a specific business, or, give me the top reviewed businesses in a specific geographic area, its job isn't to go to one source, say Google reviews or Bing reviews, and pull from that source. Its job is to look at Yelp and, anywhere where there could potentially be customer sentiment, to get you those summaries and give that back to you. And so I would say, look, you have to be, in this day and age, not just managing one channel, which is search. You need to be managing your brand and how your brand is perceived across all channels, because what the ChatGPTs and the Geminis and Perplexities and all of them are going to do is crawl the entire web and then return results for a user based off of what they're looking for. And if you're not managing and paying attention to those other channels, or getting your content published on those channels, then you're potentially missing out.
No doubt. And what we would call that in sort of marketing terminology is being omnipresent. Right? You're not just focused on one singular channel, whether it be, Google search or Facebook or whatever, but it's really having a footprint across the open web, as wide as possible. All social channels, all, directories, other, parasite sites. Like, there's people that are now spinning up profiles on Reddit, because now Google is ranking a ton of Reddit results. So you have people that are practicing what's called parasite SEO, which is piggybacking off of other high ranking sites to get links and to build your own web authority. But that brings up actually a great segue, because I think being omnipresent and building that brand awareness is a significant challenge for the everyday small business owner, right? Like, most small businesses don't have an in-house marketing person, or they probably don't have the budget. A lot of them, right? I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of them, smaller, mom and pop type operations, don't have the budget to hire a full-time performance marketer. So that's where I think some businesses can struggle, because I feel like now you have to work 20 times harder to be omnipresent and to build your brand than you did even 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, where it was a much simpler game. SEO was a much simpler game 7-8 years ago, when it was basically ads and blue links. And that's the complete opposite of what it is now. me and you talk about this all the time, but Google is always changing things in the search results, like by the day. I just saw something on online that they're actually testing hiding the citation links in AI overviews. So AI overviews are already eating into web clicks and organic traffic to websites, but at least what Google was doing was providing you with the citation link in the resource, just like ChatGPT does. Well, now they're testing, it's not rolled out, but they're testing actually hiding that link. So you cannot link to that publisher's website, which is wild to me. Like, you're already siphoning traffic away from a ton of websites. And now it's like, dude, so it's going to be harder and harder and harder. Now, to your point, you said earlier, SEO is not dying, it's just evolving. I mean, speak to that, because I feel like I'm kind of blabbering on here.
No, what you're talking about is zero-click searches. So we now have 65% of searches do not result in a click, and it's because of that, those AI answers. We get the answer when we do search. Now, that doesn't mean search is declining. It does mean traffic to websites is declining, right? So, and in a comparison, I saw a statistic recently from somebody I trust that they anticipate this year there'll be 100 times the number of searches in Google than there will be in all the AI platforms combined. People are still going to search in Google. Now, my customers are seeing a 10, 15% drop in traffic. Their rankings maintain the same, but people don't have to click to go and look at that content. So that's making it difficult to sort of capture that traffic. But that doesn't change the fundamentals of ranking and SEO. Those fundamentals are still there. Like you said, it used to be easier, and really our methodology back then, which really needed to change then and does desperately need to change now, which was we wrote content for keywords and for search engines. And that's because that's what our customers asked for. Hey, we want to rank for these keywords. So we would write content that ranked for those keywords. But I might shock some people with this statement. But, keywords and rankings are not your customers. Keywords don't buy from you at the end of the day. So if you're writing for keywords, you're going to lose in the game of business. People buy from you. So what we're telling our clients is, unless you're going to get obsessed about a piece of content that's in your industry, don't even write about it, right? So if we're going to write about content marketing, I know your industry is insurance, right? So if we're going to write about what happens when a tree falls on my house and the trees, belongs to my neighbor. Okay, what do we do then? Okay, unless you're going to obsess over those types of topics and you're going to be the authority and you're going to write and be perfect about that specific subject, don't do it. And my guess is most business owners don't have the time or the money to go invest into actually doing that, because that's really the only way there's so much content out there today. Or it's a niche new area where nobody's really written about it. That's also an opportunity. So the brands have to be thinking about focusing on their brands and not keywords. They need to be focusing on their customers and their customers' needs, because it's their customers who buy from them. And if they can meet those customer needs, and if they can look at channels other than just Google, then they move themselves from a position of, somebody trying to educate themselves on what to do in that situation to, hey, I actually know and heard of an insurance company near me that deals with these issues. I actually know their name. I'm going to search their name within the search engine and see their business profile and their 554 reviews and a 4.9 rating. And guess what? I'm calling them.
Yep.
But the brand itself, that company built that reputation.
For sure. It's also worth mentioning too, like going back to your point about that question, right? Like, what happens if my neighbor's tree falls on my house? It's important for business owners, and I guess I'm kind of speaking to insurance agents when I say this. It's important for you to understand whether you're creating the content yourself, whether you're writing it off the top of your head, or you're using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to help you write it, or if you're hiring a marketing agency to create content, or an SEO or whatever, you need to understand two important factors. The first one being is the search volume. How many people are actually searching for that question? That's obviously huge. You don't want to waste your time writing about content that very few people are searching for. But number two is you need to also see who else is ranking for it, how many results are in search for that actual query, and then what are the SERP features? Like, is it triggering an AI overview? Like, I just typed it in just to see what would pop up, because obviously it's going to it changes all the time. There's an AI overview, and the first organic result is Reddit. So what I would say to an insurance agent that might want to write this as a blog article, like the chances of you getting traffic to that article are next to zero, because you need to be top 3 organic to get any clicks from that query. Now, in the insurance agent's mind, they might be like, that's fine. Like, I don't expect a lot of traffic from it. We're not doing it for that purpose. We just want to have educational content for when people do come to our website. That's a perfect reason to create the content.
Put it in a newsletter, put it on your social media.
Correct.
Hey, Tennessee just had a bunch of storms. We're a Tennessee insurance agency. Like, we've got this content already. Let's educate our customers.
Correct. That's the reason to create it. But if you're going into it thinking like, I'm trying to rank this, you're going to be disappointed. It's very difficult to rank in organic. And it's, in order to be in an AI overview, you have to be ranking top 3, top 5 in organic. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I think I see agencies that are blogging and they're creating content and hiring SEOs to do this stuff. And it's like, man, like, you're spending a lot of money each month. And like, what is your actual ROI from these blog articles? Like, you might get some vanity traffic, but are you actually getting customers from that? So it's an interesting conversation. I'm sure it's probably a whole nother episode that we'll create for that.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that's where we do have a lot of clients, and we do content marketing for our clients in a lot of different industries. And that, like I said, that traffic has declined because that educational content, just like when you searched it, like you have Reddit as the number 1 organic, but the AI answer is up above it. And so even if we did rank as the AI answer, we're not getting the click traffic that would come and then go through our normal funnel, right? Which would be, we have a case study, we have a white paper, we want them to sign up to our newsletter, but that opportunity was never presented because they didn't have to click to get the answer. And the same thing's going to happen in ChatGPT. If it sources our content because we have the number 2 ranking, it doesn't mean somebody's going to click. Now, you might get clicks. I mean, I do have customers that maybe 1 to 5% of their traffic going to their website we do see coming from the AI platforms. We're getting it to products. Our clients that have e-commerce or have catalogs where you can request a quote, and we have product schema. Certainly for a lot of question answer, FAQ type questions and different things like that, we're seeing that some of that traffic come in. We don't really see that resulting in new business for those customers, right? It's people doing research. It's people who are sort of investigative. I think there's an evolution to it eventually and I think AI wants to do this because there's got to be a revenue model for AI, or that's either through advertising or, if I'm like, hey, I need a new phone case. And instead of doing a bunch of research on my own and reading all the reviews, I could have ChatGPT sort of summarize information for me, pull things in, give me the pros and cons and those types of things, and then help me make a decision. Well, in that process, right, there could be a pay to play sort of move for AI to get prominent positions like a merchant center that Google has, or Amazon has their listings and those types of things, so that your listings for your products are presented. But we're not there yet.
Yeah. No, we're not. It's interesting because right now, what is the revenue model for these LLMs, right? I mean, obviously now some of them have like pro subscriptions, and like, I think Gemini just came out with one that's like $250 a month. ChatGPT has one that's $240 a month or something to that effect. So like, obviously they're bringing in subscription dollars that way, but like the reality is like the average user can do anything and everything they need for free in these LLMs. Like, if they can't in one, they can try it on the other one and get their response or their answer or their code or whatever from the other one. So it is interesting. And I hope that there is. I hope they do sell ads on ChatGPT and these other, because I think in order for a lot of people to compete, that's going to be their only way, because organic is so competitive, and it's content creation, even with AI, is literally an arms race for most small businesses that they just can't keep up with it.
Yep. Yeah. I don't want to change the subject, so to speak, but we are seeing, and you might be seeing this too, companies that are actually struggling inside of Google, that the costs of ads are going up, or just that the clicks are going down, and where we didn't have a good ROI in some other channels like social media, like a Meta, Facebook, Instagram. Those are all of a sudden coming back as actually fruitful channels. Absolutely. For our clients again.
Yeah, we're pivoting some accounts away from certain Google campaigns to Meta for more brand building stuff, just because of budget limitations. We're we're working with a lot of clients that don't have massive budgets. So we're trying to maximize the budget that they have. And, at the same time, to your point, very, earlier on in the conversation about building brand, Google is not necessarily a brand generation channel. It's a search channel, right? Meta is a brand building channel as it relates to digital marketing. So I think there's a lot of, it's an important channel. I mean, Meta, I know a lot of people, a lot of other marketers that specialize in Meta advertising, and we've done a lot of stuff on Meta through the years as well. But people will tell you right now that their algorithm has never been better, especially if you have tracking and attribution set up correctly. Like, a lot of people may not know this, but the Facebook pixel, like, we have people all the time, can you put the pixel on our site? And I'm like, yes, but just understand people are opting out of tracking. So the pixel really won't help you too much. You need to set up, Facebook conversions API, which is what we've been doing for all of our clients. But we have a campaign right now actually for a roofing contractor who's a good friend of mine, $100 a day ad spend, getting 3 qualified leads per day. And a big part of it was we set up, conversions API and corrected a lot of the issues that were in his attribution, and also fixed some stuff in his actual funnel. But those are the possibilities when you can set things up correctly. You have a good ad creative. Yeah. So I definitely agree with that. I mean, Google is, I've said it before, it's at the point now where it's not even frustrating anymore. It's like comical, how often they're changing SERP features and SERP results. I mean, it's literally every day of the week.
Yeah, or pricing increase. Speaking of the home improvement industry, I've got a client there who just kind of getting into the new season. We went from $7 to $12 CPCs to a first position now is $80. So you got a client who got roofing would be the same deal. I would anticipate 30, 40, 50, 60 plus dollars for a roofing click. Yeah. It's just somebody visiting your website, right? You're getting 3 leads for $100. That's hugely economical. And I think what I've come to learn over the years, because I did get into this from a technical and analytical perspective when I got into marketing, is that marketing is a component of brand. Like, brand lives above marketing. And I always thought marketing was like the umbrella and brand was like this function that existed here. The designers build the logo and these people go out and, come up with what we say and how we say it and all these fun things, right? But the brand is in the essence of who you are. It is you. So the brand sits actually at the top. The marketing is how you communicate that brand and where you communicate it out to the world. And so brand has to come first. We got to stop thinking that brand is a function of marketing, and really marketing is a function of brand. And when you change that mindset, you now put priority to brand. Say, look, we if we're not doing well from a brand perspective, we need to get that figured out. We need to understand what makes us unique. Why do people buy from us? How do we communicate that? And then your money gets spent across those channels that actually bring in the right types of customers who do buy from you.
Yep. No, that's a great point. No, I mean, and here's the deal. Like, I've told people before, right, that are like, crazy about SEO and like micromanaging like their rankings. I'm like, dude, people don't know about Allstate, State Farm, and Geico because of their blog articles. They know about them because of their brand, and that's why people buy from them. People need to know you, like you, and trust you. Once you get to that point, you may not need to market as much, right? Because once you build that brand equity and everybody knows about you, you're going to always be in the mix. You're going to be
or you weather the storm
options
when there's an algorithm change.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's huge. I mean, speak to that for a second, because you mentioned that earlier, like off camera, and I thought that was a good point.
Well, yeah, I mean, an algorithm change can happen, tomorrow,
overnight,
right? And we've seen those, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, we had a correction. Literally, businesses have been built off of ranking in Google, driving tons of traffic to their websites, selling products, services, whatever, and an algorithm update happens, and they're done with, right? I mean, who goes to TripAdvisor and Yelp anymore? You don't, because Google suppressed their information.
Yep.
And, through algorithm updates and those types of things. And, those businesses aren't anything near what they used to be because nobody visits them anymore. So they lost their monetization and ad models and all that type of stuff. So, you really then have to start thinking about focusing on brand so that you're not having to worry about somebody doing a near me search, that it's like the example I gave before. hey, there was just a storm. Well, guess what? We've been doing all these commercials. We've been doing all this brand awareness. We've been active on our social media. We've been active in our community. And so people aren't searching for an insurance agent near me. People are searching for our name because we've become a household name. We've built the brand. We've generated buzz, and it's always on. That omni-channel is everywhere and always on. And then when somebody is in market, they go right to you.
Yep. No, it's true. And it's funny too, because people sort of forget this, right? Google, and I know we're talking about AI and we'll get back to that in a minute, but Google is a publicly traded company that needs to make money quarter after quarter after quarter for its shareholders, stakeholders, investors, right? Google at the end of the day doesn't owe any of us anything, right? We're all pissed off about losing traffic to websites, and you can cry and complain all you want, but at the end of the day, like, there's nothing we can do. So you can't put a lot of your eggs in that basket, or in any basket that, quite frankly, is as volatile, and there's so much uncertainty, right, about what might happen a year from now. You know, OpenAI could come out with a ranking algorithm. You know, OpenAI is 1% of the search volume of Google. They're basically nothing compared to the search traffic in Google. But Bing for all these years has been 6-7% of search share. ChatGPT got to 1% in about 24 months, right? Bing has never really got past 6 or 7% ever in 20 years. You know, hopefully, and I do hope for just the open web that someone does challenge Google, because I do think, like, it is monopolistic at this point. And yeah, Yelp. Remember, people used to get Yelp reviews?
Yeah.
When's the last time you saw Yelp in a search result? I mean,
or that I went to go look up anything on Yelp. I mean, I usually think as like, stop for a second, be like, what would I do? Or, maybe ask my niece who's 32, like, what are her behaviors if that's my target demographic? And, oftentimes I'm reminded that, yeah, it's not what I think it is. And yeah, she's not using Yelp to make a decision on what restaurant she's choosing tonight.
Right.
Or TripAdvisor to figure out, what hotel she's going to stay at. Like, there are different tools. Or what we forget is actually it's a social network that most of that generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs now, are using their own personal networks. They've sort of grown up with the influencer marketing, but who they're influenced most are their peers and those. So they tend to ask each other, hey, what was your favorite restaurant in this town? Who's your insurance agent? Do you have good success with them? Right. So it's coming through those types of things. And again, that's why it's so important to build brand.
Great point that you just made me think of something. So I think it's critical that a business owner understands they understand their client demographic, right? Someone who's 30 years old or 25 years old and they're looking for an insurance agent, they might be searching in ChatGPT or social media or TikTok. If you're a 58-year-old insurance agency owner with no successor, right? You're just going to ride into the sunset and eventually sell. SEO may not be of any importance to you right now, right? Because you're a relationship type of organization at that point in the game, right? Your customers who are 45 to 65 are probably not looking on TikTok or ChatGPT, right? They're asking their friend, hey, who are you using for your insurance agent? Like, our rate just went up. It's a referral and a relationship type game at that point. So I think the marketing channel that you leverage, or the rabbit hole that you dive deep into, is very much dependent upon probably your client demographics more than anything else. Like, you shouldn't be worried about ranking in ChatGPT if you're 58 years old with no successor and you're just going to be retiring and selling out. I mean, it's just maybe a pointed opinion, but I think that does make a lot of sense in my mind for some reason.
Yeah, that goes right back to brand and knowing what value you provide, who you provide it to, so you know who your customer is, and then you can communicate that value appropriately to them. And then think about where that customer is and how they're consuming information and how they're making purchase decisions. And that's where you invest in your marketing.
Absolutely.
You don't invest in marketing because it worked for that company over there. And they said, we did well with Facebook. You should do Facebook. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It doesn't mean you don't investigate that as an opportunity, but you got to know your branding. you got to have a strategy there first before you start putting out anything out into channels.
100%. So we learned today, we'll wrap this up. We learned today a couple bullet points. I'll say mine, then you could say yours. But ChatGPT, there's no ranking algorithm, right? You can't rank currently in ChatGPT. You can show up in ChatGPT if you already have a presence in Bing. Go get your Bing Places profile set up. Make sure you have that set up. Make sure that you probably connect your website to Bing Webmaster Tools, just like Google Webmaster Tools. Bing is where you could probably spend some time if you want to have, an appearance in ChatGPT, but also the omnipresent thing that you talked about earlier. Another bullet point, Google and AI overviews, it's getting crazier. They're showing up for a lot more different queries. They're showing up for local queries now, which was not the case 2 months ago, which means sometimes the map pack is not showing, or it's showing very, very low on the page. And my last bullet point would be, think about your brand and your client demographic before you dive into a rabbit hole of AI or SEO or Meta or whatever else.
Yeah. I would say stick, as far as your website goes, stick with the fundamentals. So that's probably not for the business owner to know, but maybe questions to ask whoever's building your website. But is your content organized appropriately? Does it have a good technical structure? And behind the scenes, it should have things like schema markup. Does it include things like FAQs and different things like that? I want to use this analogy because by structuring it that way, if you think of Google like a library, and Google's search engine is the librarian, and you go to the library and you ask it about a specific topic, you ask the librarian, can you reference the books for me? Can you go and fetch the books or send me to the aisle about the Civil War? That's all the librarian's job, is to point you in the right direction, or to pull the index card and say, go here. I don't know. Are you old enough to have done your high school research, Chris? And we got sent to the library and we had to do the index cards and,
Dude, I can remember it like it was yesterday, man. Like there was like this wooden box with these cards. And I'm like, what is this?
Pull out the drawer and then you'd have to go and you take the card. And so that's Google's job. It's to go and fetch you or send you into the direction of the research. Now, AI answers change the game in that as the librarian, they're now reading the content, not just fetching it for you. So the librarian is starting to read some of the content, and the librarian is trying to be like the researcher. So ChatGPT, AI, whatever we're talking about, the LLMs, they're a researcher. So their job is to go take a specific category, understand and learn that category, but they still need, in many cases, the librarian to tell them where the best sources are, right? Because the librarian has been building these sources of content for years. The librarian knows the good books versus the bad books, mostly based not on their own personal knowledge of reading them, but on the feedback of people who have read them. And so say, hey, yeah, these are the top 10 books on the Gettysburg Address. Here you go. The LLMs, what they're doing is they're reading that content for you, summarizing it. And so now when I go to the library, yes, I could go and pull the book. I could go and talk to Google and say, hey, fetch me the book on the Gettysburg Address. Or I could go to ChatGPT, which is the researcher, and I could say, give me a summary. Let's have a conversation about the Gettysburg Address. Let's have a conversation about Abraham Lincoln's role in that and the Civil War and blah, 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 because it has the summary and the knowledge of it. So we just have to understand those two fundamental purposes of those tools, that they serve two different purposes in the world of information, so to speak. One goes and fetches information for us. The other one is summarizing and learning that information to make it easier for us to get access to that information. Yep.
See, man, this is why I have you on the podcast, because I would have not thought of that analogy. That's definitely that's a great way to think about it. Honestly, I mean, it can be hard to discern between the two, but that makes a lot of sense. So, where can people get more Curtis Hays?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, you mentioned Curtis Hays Consulting, which is really part of Kaleidoscope, which is our group of really skilled A-team people, branders, marketers, social media experts, SEO people, analytics people. That's all part of the Kaleidoscope umbrella. We just love doing marketing, and we talk about that on Bullhorns and Bullseyes. So if you want to check out that podcast, which you've been a guest on season 1, and we got to have you back.
Yeah, man.
episode 50. And so it's growing, and we're having a great time, and lots of good marketing content there. So
Awesome,
thanks for
man.
having me
So,
on,
yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, definitely, dude. And, if anybody has questions for me, you can catch me at advisorevolve.com. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll post some other links in the description of the video as well. There's another cool LLM, Manus AI, that I think is pretty cool. It compares insurance contracts. So we'll do that on another episode. But we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for checking in on the Rise and Bind podcast. Take care.